So we are going to obviously talk about computer vision projects that we are developing here at the university. I'll focus a little bit more on the management side of things. Tiago is going to focus a little bit on the breeding decisions perspective, but our work has a comfortable overlap on some of the data that we extract from images. We just apply it in different ways. So first, the problem that we are trying to address would be the increasing world population. We obviously, most people here probably know that we are projecting almost 10 billion people by 2050. And with that, you can imagine that the demand for animal products is going to increase. And as a result of that, it means that we need to increase efficiency. And we cannot do that without thinking about some other topics, some challenges. We need to increase efficiency while maintaining animal welfare, animal health, improving animal welfare, improving environmental sustainability, and still helping farmers take care of their animals, and keeping the system profitable. These challenges we can address in multiple ways, and the way that I particularly study is by using technology to address these challenges in an area that can be known as precision livestock farming or precision management of animals, or some variant of the combination of the word precision and animal. And what that is, here I bring a formal definition of the area, which is the management of individual animals by continuous, automated, and real-time monitoring of a few different things. So the word real-time is highlighted there because we really wanted this data, this monitoring, to be done in an obviously continuous way and every day, 24/7 if possible, of some things such as health, welfare, production, reproduction, and environmental impact. And how do we do that? We need to have data on the microenvironment that our animals are inserted. We need to have data on the animals themselves, which can be of any species. And we need to be able to measure response of these animals to this microenvironment. Their information is then passed to algorithms, which are going to output decisions or information or alarms that will be passed to a controller. This controller can either be automated or a person that's then going to, knowing a desired process output, going to modify that environment in which the animals are inserted, or treat animals themselves, and obtain a new response, a new feedback to this controller. A quick example would be, let's say that your animals are grouping together, and you know what the environmental temperature is. You could maybe conclude that they are cold, or algorithm would conclude animals are cold, turn on thermostat, and that could be an automated controller because you know what the desired process output would be of not having the animals grouping together. Just a simple example. One key point there is we need to collect data on these animals, and the way that we collect data for automation would be by using sensors. And there are several different types of sensors available for use. One category of sensors would be wearable sensors. Here I just have a few examples on a dairy cow, because most sensors you could find a larger variety of sensors you could find for dairy cows. So you have ear tags, nose bands, collars, tail rings, leg straps, bolus. And you can see that some of the things that you can measure with those different kinds of sensors, they overlap a little bit. So obviously you wouldn't just purchase all of those. You would maybe pick one or two of those and use. Another category of sensors that you can use would be what we call the non-wearable sensors. And among those, we have mostly microphones and cameras. And there are a few different kinds of cameras that you could be using. In my research, we are good split between depth cameras, which provide you with a 3D level of information, or your common surveillance camera. Thermal cameras we use for research to gather information, but rarely we develop a solution that's based on thermal cameras, at least in my lab. And obviously, because this is a computer vision presentation, we're going to focus on some of those applications using cameras as our sensors. They are giving us the information needed. So this is my cat. I hope my dog doesn't feel left out. I use this picture in my classes. And just some of the applications of computer vision. That's a good way to visualize. So you have image classification, in which a computer would look at an image and give it a class, for example, cat. Detection would be giving it a class, but at the same time locating that specific object on the image. So you have a little box around the object of interest. We call that bounding box. In this case, I have a ball and a cat. Segmentation would go further and not just give a location the shape of a square or a rectangle. You would actually have all the pixels belonging to a specific object being classified as, in this case, cat, ball, couch. And then you have key point detection, which would be related to specific points in an object of interest, such as maybe joints in an animal. Now I'll give you a few examples of research that I've been developing with these concepts in mind. Here I use the detection for cow detection. So you can see the little box finds cows. The way we can use this is by maybe tracking the animals. If you can detect the same animal in frames, you could track their activity, or you could count animals, for example. Another application here, she's not here right now, she has been working on DMI prediction. So you have a picture, a 3D image of the feet of the animal, but also you can have information on the animals, how many times they visit a feeder, for example, and measure movement of head, and try to predict DMI, or dry matter intake, from those individual animals. Another application of detection would be posture and behavior classification. So you can see here piglets in a nursery facility. When they are at the drinker, we can see. When they are there at the feeder, if they are not at a feeder, we can classify if they're standing or lying down. That's a work of one of my students that's sitting there, Mamon. And with that information, we could extract maybe time that the animal spent at the feeder, time at the drinker, and correlate that with performance metrics. Now, segmentation, for example, this is a top view image, a depth image, so we have that 3D shape of a pig. We segment the pig on the image, and then we can create this 3D shape. It's this blob there to the right side is a pig without the head region, and get measurements from that body shape, so the quick animation of what that would look like there. We get measurements, for example, at the curvature at the last rib position of this animal, and we can use this information later for things like body condition score prediction. This is the type of dimensions that we could collect using one top view camera, as long as it's a 3D camera. And this is a correlation between body dimensions with body condition score. There's a model with a mean average error of 1 unit of body condition score. This is comparing with the body condition score caliper, not visual body condition score. Another application of using body dimensions extracted from a segmentation algorithm would be weight prediction. This is you're going to see a little top view video of pigs coming to a drinker, and then these drinkers, they are equipped with RFID antennas, and the animals do have RFID tags, so when they come to the drinker, we know who it is. And by a segmentation algorithm, we can extract some body dimensions and plot that into a machine learning model to predict body weight of those animals. The left side is body weight in kilos, and the right side is the RFID tag. Then we can also use segmentation for monitoring movement patterns. For example, here I segmented the body of the pig in head, and then left and right side of the hip region and the shoulder region. And if we see, I'll play this video, is a sow walking. We were trying to detect gait patterns. And then you can see the height at the shoulder region, left and right shoulder being plotted into a graph, and the same for the hip. And we can start seeing patterns of movement of shoulder and hip region, and then maybe correlate that with lameness, for example. Another example of segmentation would be to measure activity level. This is a project to determine mother ability, and one of the things that we want to see if it's the piglet activity correlates with the crushing incidence of the piglets. So obviously first we need to be able to detect those piglets and understand how much they are active or not. And one example of key point detection model for gait assessment is a project together with Professor Josh McCain. We're looking for specific joint points. I left this one video that there's a little point floating up and down. That's the first iteration of the model. So you can imagine that depending on the type of background you have, you kind of have to adapt and make sure that your data set is representative of the kind of environment you're going to encounter at the farm. So what do we do with all this information that we can extract? Time is the main thing here, right? As I mentioned, we need continuous assessment. So let's take a look on time variable on how it reflects on weight of, in this case, pigs. We have two curves there for two different genetic lines of pigs. And you can see that averages, they are useful to understand maybe how different breed grows in relation to another breed. But we can't really make a decision based on if I had one animal and I wanted to know how heavy they should be at any specific week. I couldn't use this average curve as my standard. I would have to understand what is the growth curve of a specific animal, so we wouldn't need to look at individual level. This would be the curve of one animal of weight over time being collected weekly. And this is a curve of that same variable being collected daily. You can see it follows the average, but it's not the same. So you can imagine if we are trying to develop models that need to indicate an action to be taken, you need to really understand the individual level of the variation, what's normal and not normal for the individuals, and then understand if they are falling out of the curve. So let's say that this weight starts going down and doesn't catch back up, then even if it was within average for that animal species and genetics, maybe you could pick up a problem early on versus waiting to see symptoms of a disease, for example. What are some of the limitations of this type of technology or this type of research? First thing, animals, they are complex, they are individually different, they are time varying, and they are dynamic. I like to say that this kind of showcases a little bit both the growth of the animals. If you train a computer vision model on a piglet, it's not going to work on a sow right away. You have to do some modifications, but also it addresses a little bit of the personality component of animals over there. This is a quick example. If I were to develop a computer vision model that was trying to detect pigs in a pen like this is actually a weighing scale. And I expected the animals to come from the left side, stay a few seconds inside, and leave on the right side. And I'm expecting a pig shape. And if my model sees something like this, it will crash if I didn't think about this type of behavior. So the pig is just jumping up on the weighing scale. So you have to keep in mind that animals, they do act in different ways. Our environment is also a limitation. This is a pig. It's pink. It has a specific shape. Once I provide this image, now my pig is half gray and half pink and has some dots, which is the pattern of the animal. But also this pig here also has some dots, but that's actually manure. So the same pig yesterday and today, they look different. And we need to take that into account on our data when we're coming up with our data sets that we are training our models. This is an example of trying to bring computer vision to outdoors. This is just drone footage. Maybe not necessarily computer vision is going to be the sole solution for outdoor environments. We definitely need to rely more on wearable sensors when we are outdoors. And data is a big problem. We generate lots of data, but actually what we want is information. I like to bring this slide of one image. It can give you about almost 400,000 numbers. And then the same image being collected, 30 images per second on a video, you would have 11 million numbers there. And then maybe in 24 hours, you have 1 trillion numbers to deal with, when in reality, maybe you just want the one number, which is animal weight. So how do we actually stop storing images and actually getting information and decisions? I like to also bring this slide. We need to be always keeping in mind the customer's actual needs. If your customer is a farmer, maybe you need something that actually works at the farm and not just on the just move forward with the AI portion of things. If your customer is a student, then you want to cater for that scenario as well. I like to keep things grounded. We need to collect data and understand where we can go, but then always ground things a little bit back and make sure that they are applicable in the field. Because in the end, we really need to remember to do this final step, which is data integration, and that's something that I always get asked by producers. Oh, I have the system that measures weight, I have the systems that can identify the animal, I have the system that gives me this other information, but then I have 20, 30 apps that I have to deal with. So how can we integrate that? In the end of the day, we really want that data, the animal data, to be transformed into information. Maybe some sort of advice that is going to come from professionals in different areas. And then those are going to be transformed into actions to modify our environment, make up our production a little bit more efficient. So our outcomes would be more efficiency, but also less working time and better work-life balance for a producer if we're thinking about farmers as our final customer. And just mention to my group, could not do this work without my students, so thank you, my students, and some of the different